Welcome to the About Japan program seminar. On the title today is the Ishiba-Trump Summit and Japan's new political power balance. My name is Kyoteru Tsui, and I'm the director of the Japan program here. In early October, we had a session with the same two panelists, Harukata Takenaka-san and Noriko Akiyama-san, to talk about the outcome of the LDP presidential election that just took place in late September. And then we made some prognosis about what might happen. We can review, the video is up on YouTube, so we can review whether their predictions. I don't think you made a lot of predictions. And we promised to do another session in light of the, at the time, the upcoming lower house election, which took place in late October. We can talk about whether that was a surprising outcome or not. We just, this session comes right on the heels of the summit meeting between Japan's Prime Minister and US President, both of whom are relatively new, and it was a much anticipated event. So today we'd like to start with that discussion. And then we'll kind of go backwards to talk about the lower house election in Japan that saw the LDP, the ruling coalition, lose the majority for the first time in some years. So Japan's political power balance has shifted, and it's an interesting time to reflect on that. Before that, we just because it's fresh on our minds, we want to get started with the Trump-Ishiba Summit meeting that took place last week, and then discuss how to evaluate that and where the US-Japan relations might go from there. And I'm not going to repeat the introduction that I did for the two speakers last time, but Harukata Takenaka is a professor, leading political scientist in Japan, especially on Japanese politics and US-Japan relations. Professor at GRIPS, National Institute for Graduate, easier to say GRIPS, National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, that's GRIPS. And Noriko Akiyama-san is one of the preeminent reporters, newspaper reporters in Japan. She also has a PhD, and she works at the prestigious Asahi newspaper. She's coming in from Rome, where the time is, I think, midnight already. Anyway, so please join me in welcoming these two excellent panelists. And we will get started with the Ishiba-Trump Summit discussion with Haru-san presenting some slides.
Okay.
So
so should I, hold on, I was talking, so should I use microphone? Okay. So thank you very much for having me. I'd like to thank Kyo-san and Akana-san for organizing this workshop. You have so many other things going on with seminars and visitors. And I'd like to share my views on the recent summit meeting and also challenges for Prime Minister Ishiba, as well as long-term changes in Japanese politics. And so let's go to the, hold on. Okay, so our Prime Minister visited DC to meet President Trump last Friday. And they met for 30 minutes. And then they had working lunch for 80 minutes. Okay. And in the 30 minutes meeting, Prime Minister Ishiba stressed that he stressed that he shared the same values with President Trump, emphasizing that his initiative of local revitalization and President Trump's MAGA initiative have the same policy objectives. That is to design policies for those men and women who are forgotten. And he also emphasized that Japan had been making huge investment in the States. So I think he was trying to persuade President Trump to be nice to Japan, given our investment. And he also revealed that to Japanese companies, Toyota and Isuzu would make additional investments. Okay. And so let's review some of the agreements they have made. And two leaders agreed on several important points. As we can see in the slides, they agreed on two key principles. President Trump reaffirmed US commitment to defend Japan through various means, including nuclear deterrence, and also to apply US-Japan Security Treaty to Senkaku Islands. And also they reached agreements in concrete policies. For example, they concurred to increase to countries' presence in Southwest Islands, where the tension is growing with China, collaborate to enhance defense industrial capacity, and including, I mean, it's people have not really noticed it, but it's important that they agree to build up industrial capacity, including maritime. That is, United States has some faces some problems with shipbuilding capacities. So I think they will collaborate more to strengthen that capacity. And also incorporating other areas such as space and the cyberspace. And on economy, Prime Minister pledged that Japan would increase investment in the United States to $1 trillion, although he has not specified the target year, and cooperation in AI, on economic security, and also President Trump promised to increase US exports of LNG to Japan. That would be have the effects of reducing trade deficit of the United States against Japan. And there was another issue of the purchase of US steel by Nippon Steel. I don't know what they really discussed, but Trump said Nippon Steel it will not purchase, but will make investment in US Steel. So I think the details will be discussed. I think the president of Nippon Steel is coming to the United States this week, and we'll meet President Trump. And also cooperation in the Pacific. I think what was very important was that two leaders really explicitly named China and openly expressed their opposition to China's attempt to change status quo in East China Sea and its provocative activities in South China Sea. And also, they emphasize that it is important to keep the status quo areas surrounding Taiwan. And also, I think they agreed to support Taiwan's participation in international organizations. So that's the gist of the argument. And also, we should note what Ishiba did not raise in this summit meeting. He did not really refer to the revision of US-Japan agreement on the status of United States armed force in Japan, as well as his vision of creating Asian version of NATO. Okay, that's it for me for now. Okay.
Great, thank you. So the gist of it, as far as I can tell, looking at mainstream, is that it went as well as it could, really. And for Japan, there were some concrete victories, like, I mean, it's kind of underplayed, but the commitment to defend Senkaku, Article 5 of the US-Japan Security Treaty, its applicability, that was pretty, I thought it was pretty significant.
Right.
I mean, it's a continuation, but you never knew what President Trump may have, might say. But Japan achieved that without making concrete commitments in terms of defense budget increase. It said, like, we'll make a fundamental, whatever, fundamental increase in the budget, but not specifying 3% or 4% or whatever. All the economic commitments also are kind of vague. I mean, 1 trillion is great, but as Haru-san said, no timetable. And also you can fudge numbers to reach that number. And it's also mostly done by the private sector. And also LNG, it's great, but it's really going to take a long time. Right? So I think Nippon Steel component might be the most sort of urgent and concrete, and we'll see how it might play out. But before getting deeper into this, and I want to invite you to ask questions as we move along. Before moving on to the next topic, I want to invite you to ask questions about the Ishiba-Trump Summit. But before that, I want to hear from Akiyama-san about the media sort of evaluation assessment about the summit. And assuming that most agree that it was a successful outcome, how really behind the scenes efforts that produced that relatively positive outcome, how did the Japan foreign policy team achieve that? So Akiyama-san, please shed some light on those issues.
Okay.
Do you need a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, hold on.
So, Kana-san, page 1, first page, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. So, I would like to focus on more informal politics and the inside politics behind the scene or the politician's character. So, as the Takenaka sensei said, Ishiba-Trump Summit was held. So there were concerns, particularly among the MOFA, Minister of Foreign Affairs diplomats, because Ishiba was criticized that he was not good at the diplomacy. Like, as you know, he was really criticized, his attitude, he's shaking hands in both hands, or he shake hands in sitting. Such kind of manner, he was really criticized, particularly on social media. And among the MOFA bureaucrats, the Ishiba's limited experiences in the diplomacy and his policy stances are inconsistent with the Japanese foreign engagement. But after all, the Ishiba, after he became prime minister, he studied and followed the MOFA team. So how the prime minister should conduct himself in diplomatic manner, or so how he would say his opinion in diplomacy like that. So as a result, during the discussion with President Trump, I think I can say he could handle and manage the discussion with President Trump. So he could conduct himself in a relaxed and comfortable and dignified manner as a prime minister. So we can say he could succeed to a certain extent.
Good, great, thank you. Any questions at this point about the Ishiba-Trump summit? And Akiyama-san, am I correct to characterize that that as a success, at least as portrayed by Japanese media?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was considered a success by the Japanese public opinion because public opinion polls went up by 5%.
Yes.
And disapproval rate went down by 5%. Now that so the Prime Minister Ishiba now can have the surplus of 10% on the surplus of 10% between the approval, those approved and those who not approved. Yeah.
And also my understanding is that it was done also in a way that didn't really upset China either. There was some statements about Taiwan, but China just called Japan's second, not the ambassador in China, but second person, right? Or something like that. And then, but didn't say anything to US ambassador.
Oh, really?
I guess there's no US ambassador at the moment. I saw the news report on that, correct me if I'm wrong. But that was, so it said something about Taiwan, something about, right? Little bit about East China, South China Sea, but it didn't seem like it also kind of sort of escaped really China's strong attention. That, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I thought that China was I was kind of furious because they were targeted. But I think it was interesting that they took away the, hold on, I don't know, a buoy that they stationed in East China Sea after the summit meeting. So I was wondering what that might mean.
Yeah, so I was just watching some Japanese TV yesterday, and some of the experts, so-called former ambassadors to the US and others, were talking about how this was a dance. China was not really upset.
Okay.
If China was really upset, it would have done more. China had to at least demonstrate to Japan that, this is not that great, but it was not a real anger.
Okay.
That was the conversation that those people were having, but I don't, I mean, these are diplomatic protocol that could be interpreted.
Is the policy. So I thought the summit was a good win for both sides, but it was actually a great win for the US because they're getting $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Right. And Japan's not really getting a lot.
No, but we
All Japan's getting is, okay, if there's a war on the islands, we'll help you, but I think that was just a confirmation of what's already there. But for Trump in the US, it's a great win. But, Japan, it seemed to me, at least as a Japanese taxpayer, it's great for the US because we're giving you $1 trillion, but what do we get?
so we get the assurance that I mean,
They'll
because
protect us, anyway.
no, because so many people are not sure about what President Trump would say about Senkaku Islands. But it was put in a statement that U.S. make a commitment that the U.S.-Japan security treaty would be applied to Senkaku Islands. That was that was a solid statement, and that's the best we can get for now, right?
This is like an expectations game, I think, right? And then this is where President Trump is so advantaged, because a lot of people in Japan, the public was worried that there'll be tariffs specifically on Japanese auto industry or something, or Trump might say that Japan would not, US would not defend Japan, or even like pull out troops and all these. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Won't
But
Japanese cars from Mexico get tariffed anyway?
I'm sorry.
Japanese cars made in Mexico.
Right, yeah, but
anyway.
if it's in a round.
And Japanese cars from Canada get tariffed anyway.
Yeah. But in terms of US-Japan direct bilateral relationships, that was the expectation. And none of those sort of perceived threats came through, and that's why people thought it was success. It's very interesting, kind of, right?
So what's the next step, you think, in this relationship? Is there something in the horizon as the
Next step.
next meeting, next step,
Next meeting, I think we are going to continue that, to persuade President Trump that our investment in the United States is increasing, and also our defense budget is increasing. I mean, it's going to increase because it's almost I mean the Japanese government made almost a public commitment that it will increase to the Japanese defense budget to 9 trillion yen, regardless of whether Prime Minister Ishiba talks to President Trump or not. But what he wants is more efforts by their allies to spend and expand defense spending. So at least we can continue to show that to him. But then maybe in 2 years he might start saying that Japan needs to increase the defense budget to 3% of GDP. But
Yeah, so
Yeah.
So my only concern in this kind of discussion is it's great for the United States because we're going to spend more money in Japan on defense, which is great for America. We'll build out LNG in Alaska, it's good for America. We'll build a factory for Isuzu and Toyota, but Japan's not getting so much.
No, but it's good for us to increase our defense expenditures given the serious situation in East Asia. I mean, regardless, it's not really. Well, of course, the United States have been demanding us to expand our defense spending, but it's. I think we are getting more autonomous in our defense because we are building up this more defense capacity. So I think that's good for us.
The potential concrete real gain for Japan is if something comes out of the Nippon Steel, US Steel, and it was very vague at the moment, but we'll see. For that, I mean, at least it was Nippon Steel was in a better place than the day before Ishiba-Trump Summit. Mario, you had a.
Oh, yes. Sorry, it's a question that it's kind of a tangent, so I'm sorry to derail. It's mostly for Akiyama-san. So, first of all, thank you for joining us at midnight. I really appreciate it. So as Dr. Takenaka pointed out, Ishiba started off his meeting with Trump by value signaling that, I have very similar values to you. We're very similar. Donald Trump has made it very clear that he's kind of launching this war on DEI, right? And he's been making a point of cutting all this DEI. And from my experience, Japan has been looking to the United States as a model for how does a diverse society function? How can we incorporate diversity into Japanese society and business? How do you think Ishiba's value signaling will impact his policies and the Ishiba cabinet's stance towards progressing DEI in Japan?
So now the DEI issue is really buzzword. So inside the LDP politicians and politics, I think. So maybe Ishiba-san personally, he's really on the, put value on the DEI issue, but maybe he strategically doesn't refer to any DEI issue with President Trump, because that is a kind of the really could be a dangerous seed. Yes. So, but the many politicians, not only in the opposition party, but inside the LDP, there was a really so expanding concerns. So what we should do about the DI issue? Yes, it's a really good point, I think.
Thank you. Good. Any other
Question. Sorry, I'm an undergraduate student. My name is Ishiba-Trump. I have a question for you. In the past administration, there was, to my understanding, there was a lot of emphasis on securing supply chains and like with international cooperation between allied nations with the U.S., Japan, Australia, and other nations. However, under near the end of the Biden administration, with the denial of for example, the U.S. steel buyout, and with Trump increasing tariffs on allied nations, and for example, proposing a 25% tariff on aluminum, I believe, steel. Do you think that these initiatives that were formulated and continued under the past administration will continue to grow in terms of increasing international cooperation between supply chains for critical supplies, or do you think it will splinter off or get reduced in terms of priority?
No, I think it's, I mean, the economic security is such an important issue for Japan and the United States. So regardless, I mean, it's true as you said, the Trump has announced, higher taxes for aluminum and steel, but for critical minerals, I think we continue to cooperate with the United States, Australia, and Canada, and other like-minded countries and allies. And I think it's because the threat from China to weaponize these critical materials is so huge, so that I don't think we have no options, but it takes time, right? So I think it wouldn't take. That's why in the statement, they emphasize that we are going to continue our efforts to strengthen our supply chains, right? Well, I think as regards to economic ties, I think the ties are strengthening in the field like semiconductors, because United States has been cooperating with Japan for setting up this factory in Hokkaido with Rapidus, and also I think the United States semiconductor companies have increased their investment, although we have provided our subsidies to set up to increase the capacity, production capacity of semiconductors in these U.S. American semiconductor factories. But I think it's not really direct investment for commercial purposes. I think that the ties is really I think the emphasis is on to strengthen the bonds for secure economic security over the two countries. I think it's really happening. Yeah.
also on the more private level AI Stargate with Son
Yeah,
Masayoshi and
Son Masayoshi.
Sam Altman?
I think that's a different story. I think Son-san wants to make a bet on building a new platform on AI and winning that competition against other US companies. So I think a collaboration between the United States and Japan, but I think that's more his personal.
His investment counts toward 1 trillion, the Ishiba-Trump.
Yeah.
So that
It's included. Yeah, right.
kind of free ride, the public prime. Anyway, I think we should move on to the next topic, but unless there's a burning question about the Ishiba-Trump Summit on your part. And I appreciate Fuji-san quite a while. What's in it for us, for the Japanese people? It's really interesting. Next, we're gonna kind of go backward in time and review the election outcome of the was it late October? The October 15th? Okay. Election, lower house election that saw the LDP and Komeito lose a number of seats. So I think I'm going to start with Haru-san's review of what happened and subsequent policy realignment,
Right.
policy changes and so on.
So in the general election, as we all know, LDP and Komeito could not secure majority, winning only 215 seats together. The majority is 233. And so now the Ishiba government is a minority government. And the reason, there are three causes why the LDP and Komeito lost. The first reason is the ministerial appointment at the onset of Ishiba cabinet was so shabby, and he disappointed so many Japanese by appointing not so known and old veteran politicians as ministers. And also he could not come up with any appealing economic policies. And also, and the last and the most important reason was the public frustration with the flash funds scandal. And so, do you want to talk about these party alliances?
Sure.
Okay. So what is fortunate for Prime Minister Ishiba is the non-LDP camp is divided between the right wing and the left wing, and if the non-LDP camp could obtain 10 more seats, they can get the government and control the power. But non-LDP is divided. On the left, you have Constitutional Democratic Party, Reiwa, and JCP. On the right, you have Ishin, DPP, and others. And so the Ishiba Prime Minister Ishiba can divide and conquer kind of tactics and get into deals with these political parties separately. Okay, so that's a political, and that's what's happening. I think, and it seems to me that the DPP or Ishin has no intention to make a united front against LDP. Or Prime Minister Ishiba to grab the power to control the government. So I think it's the situation is very fortunate for Prime Minister Ishiba and sustaining his power. Thank you.
Now, Akiyama-san, you can tell us more about the personalities in the Ishiba cabinet, right?
Yes, okay. So Kana-san, please, the page 2, yes. Okay, so now one of the Ishiba challenge is, so he is pursuing what's the Ishiba style, Ishiba way, so Ishiba rashisa. So as the Takenaka sensei says, his government is a minority government. He rely on the voters' support. So he decide that he loves debates in the parliamentary session. So he is trying to demonstrate and show both of his policy and his personality or integrity at the direct session debate. So he talks his own words, not just reads the transcripts, but so he used his own way or his wording, and so maybe so you can show his speech or his answer in the direct session. It is really, really interesting, really different from the former prime ministers. But on the other hand, so he is good at policy or debates, but he lacks the political strategy skills. That is really, really weak point. So far, he often have misjudged. So he accepted the administration posts or LDP posts. So he often he reject and accept in wrong time and wrong opportunity or wrong like that. So the one of the another his challenge is the how he can make his strategy or so how he handle with the politically the inside politics and the political struggles. Next, please. So I would explain the key figures of Ishiba administration. So one is the Hiroshi Moriyama. He is the Secretary General of LDP. Maybe he, not many people do not know who is Hiroshi Moriyama. He is from Kagoshima and a really rural area. He's a kind of self-made politician, like Suga-san, Tatakiage. He graduates from Night High School. He does not graduate from university, but he is really good at making connection with the inside and outside of the LDP. So once he has served at the parliament chief of parliamentary affairs, Kokutai Incho, now he serves not only Secretary General, but also essentially he is a role of the parliamentary affairs, chief of parliamentary affairs. So, and I want to explain show his personality or his principle. One example, he has never held the fundraising party in his political life. He said once he was a owner of the micro enterprise, so he knows the how it is it is expensive, the 10,000 yen or 15,000 yen, the ticket, the price of the fundraising party. So after he became the agricultural minister, many people advised him he should hold such kind of fundraising party, but he never held the fundraising party. So he is really old style politician. I can say he is a kind of endangered species in LDP. Next, please. So another key figures of Ishida administration is Ryosei Akazawa. His constituency is Tottori. So that is the reason why he is really close to Ishiba-san. Now he is minister in charge of economic revitalization. He is really, really loyal to Ishiba. Several years ago, Ishiba-san's faction, Suigetsukai, was dissolved. The many politicians left him, like Saito Ken-san, Furukawa Yoshihisa-san, like that. But he was loyal to Ishiba. Maybe I think he was the last person. He didn't leave his faction, Suigetsukai. So now he is really close to Ishiba. So he is allocated his own office in Prime Minister's residence, Shushoukante. That was only him. And I show some episode, the political attitude of the Akazawa-san. He founded the Parliamentary League for the Eradication of Sexual Crimes. It's really, really rare who focus on such kind of issue among the LDP politicians. Next, please. And the two executive secretaries to the Prime Minister is really important. So one is Mao Yoshimura, Yoshimura Mao-san. She has served for Ishiba around 30 years, and he writes every speech and every transcript of the Ishiba-san's speech or his resource. She is really, really also loyal to Ishiba-san. And the other executive secretary is Akihiro Tsuchimichi. He was former vice defense minister for international affairs. It was really surprising when he became the executive secretary, because that shows the Ishiba has any strong networks among the bureaucrats. Next, please. So now, as Takenaka sensei says, the LDP and Ishiba administration face a really challenges because they are minority government. So here is a lesson from the past administration. So Obuchi administration. The Obuchi administration was established after LDP's lost in upper house election in 1998, the minority in upper house. So at that time, the Nonaka-san, Mr. Nonaka Hiromu, became the chief cabinet secretary, and his job was to make the stable Obuchi administration. So he is like a fisherman. He fished the outside LDP, the politicians, to join the politicians to make them join LDPs. So he compared himself to a fisherman. But the problem is such kind of well-experienced and strategic and veteran politician is now is really few among the LDP. Next, please. Because the lots of change happens these 10 years within LDP. As you know, Abe administration have lasted 12 years, and also the continuity was a Suga administration. So during that, no major power struggles in over 10 years among the LDP because Prime Minister Abe was too strong. And during that, among the LDP politicians, the diversity was really reduced. So now the mainstream was the family politicians like Nisei, Sansei. So self-made politicians like Nonaka-san or Suga-san or Moriyama-san was really few. As I said, they are endangered species in LDPs. So, because of the kickback scandal, the Kishida, Prime Minister Kishiba ordered the factions inside LDP should be dissolved. So many of the LDP faction already have dissolved. So there was no core to making the political struggle or political power battle. So there was no core like factions. So now the inside of LDP, there was no energy to make strategies to gain power for the gaining the majority again. Next, please. Okay. Of course.
Okay, so we'll
Yes.
we'll get to that right after this. But so the picture that emerges from their excellent presentations is that well, so LDP is now a not a majority ruling party in the Diet, and but still the ruling party. And Ishiba is somebody who has had who had been outside of the mainstream of the LDP. That's why the people surrounding him are loyalists who, despite Ishiba being kind of not in the mainstream, supported him to a certain extent and what have been loyal to him. Those are people who surround him at the moment. So that begs the question of what's happening with the previous mainstream of the LDP, namely Abe faction, which has been dissolved, but there are a lot of powerful, influential, and very capable politicians. And there's also Aso-san, who still has a faction, I think the only remaining faction in the LDP. There's also Kishida and Suga, but Kishida and Suga, my understanding that they're supporting Ishiba, basically. So there are people like Aso-san and key figures, Seko-san or Hagiura-san, in former Abe faction. What's happening with those people? And obviously, Takaichi-san, Kobayashi-san, Koizumi-san, those are people who ran for the LDP presidential election and lost. Takaichi-san very nearly lost. So these are next candidates to be prime minister, president of LDP, and prime minister of Japan. What's happening with those people, and also CDP, DPP, all those people, Yato, the opposition parties, angling for a way to form an alliance with LDP, and DPP head Tamaki-san. There's a lot of talk about potential prime ministership of Tamaki in some kind of coalition formation dynamic. There's also a dilingual idea, like a grand coalition between CDP and LDP. So there's all kinds of Japanese politics have been so boring, but now it's getting kind of exciting. All kinds of potential. So can you say, maybe starting with Akiyama-san, what's happening on that front? Like who are the movers and shakers, and what's going on with all the new benkyokai, all these groupings that may not have the same kind of control over the members, but kind of like some kind of groupings are emerging out of those studies.
Yes.
So can you speak to that and then link it to the right wing?
Yes. So now I'm explaining about that. So of course, separate surname issue. So separate surname issue might be a battleground of the politics. Maybe it is a possibility it become a trigger of a political realignment, because the LDP's right wing, like Takaichi-san, really strongly opposed the surname issue. But and also the Ishiba-san personally, he is really agree with the separate surname issue. But so now is the battleground. And the double Furukawa. Double Furukawa means LDP Furukawa Yoshihisa and DDP's Furukawa Motohisa. Of course, they are not the right wing at all. The Furukawa Yoshihisa-san is belongs to working team of LDP surname project team, and he was once really close to Ishiba-san. He was the member of Ishiba faction, Suigetsukai, and eventually he left the Suigetsukai, but his view is really similar to Ishiba-san's view. And I think he's really the psychologically connection with the Ishiba-san. And double Furukawa is really connected strongly. And the double Furukawa, of course, agree with separate surname issue. So there is a question. The surname issue becomes a battleground for that is a trigger of political realignment, or I mean the LDP might be dissolved. I don't know, but there is a possibility. Or as the Tsutsui Sensei said, the Dairenritsu, grand coalition with CDP or DDP. Of course, CDP, DDP, and Komeito agree with the separate surname issue. So there's some kind of model like so. First LDP, second LDP, like agree with surname issue or disagree, opposed to surname issue, and also there's the grand coalition of surname issue oppose and I don't agree. And also there's another topic for the political realignment. That is the political election reform. The Ishiba, Prime Minister Ishiba delivered this year's first speech. He is really wanna do a election reform. And before he became Prime Minister, he referred to election reform many times. From the single member district to the several member district, from 小選挙区制 to 中選挙区制. Of course, academically, maybe so Takenaka sensei has some opinion about the revival of the 中選挙区制, but anyway, the double Furukawa and Ishiba-san really push the the revival of the former electoral system. So the surname issue and the electoral reform could be a trigger of a political realignment. I don't know, but the before and after the upper house election, it's really connection with the result and the political power struggle inside LDP and outside LDP. But the surname issue and electoral reform is the two topics of a political battleground. Of course, the policy issue. But here's my.
So does everyone know what separate surname issues are? Do we not have to? All right. So pick up on this, please, and talk about you have a slide on the right
wing,
in
yes.
Japan.
Okay.
And just quickly go over some of those points if you could.
Yes. Okay, hold on. So let me just. I think this has Akiyama-san mentioned, and Kyo-san also talked about this possible inner struggles within the LDP. But I think there's other elements, other issues emerging in Japanese politics to kind of have other implications where we are going from now. And that is the potential of the rise of right-wing extremism. And in the last year's general election, we have observed the emergence of right-wing extreme political parties for the first time. That was the Sanseto and the Nihon Hoshito. The Sanseto, I think, call themselves Sanseto in English, and Hoshito is the Conservative Party of Japan. And they won, each party won respectively 3 seats. And what is important is that if you look at that's the voting, the ratio of the votes received obtained by the right-wing political parties, including the LDP and the DPP. And so it's the ratio. I mean, they won. The previous election they obtained like 53%, and this time again about 53%. So the ratio, the portion they secure has not really changed, but out of 52.9%, 5.5% went to the radical right. Okay, and this is something to be concerned. Okay, and the other thing is that the Sanseto is doing not well, but has done better than expected in local elections. They obtained like 10% of the seats in city assembly elections in 2023. And and also it may be anecdotal, but the tension between local population and immigrants have begun to emerge in political scenes, given the rapid expansion of the number of immigrant population in Japan. And recently there was a very interesting local election in Toda City, which is in the north of Tokyo, in the southern part of Saitama, where the immigrant population is rapidly growing. And the candidate called Yusuke Kawai ran on the platform of anti-immigration, and he really overwhelmed in this city council election in the Toda City. So that's something. Well, it's just one politician in one city assembly election, but something to be concerned. And what is more concerning is the trend within the LDP, and I call this republicanization of the LDP. And this is, I can provide an institutional explanation why this is happening. That is, the LDP is tilting towards shifting to the right, and there is more chances for radical right-wing LDP politicians to become the president because of long-term institutional change within Japan over the past 3 decades. You might not understand what I'm talking about now, but I think you will probably agree. I don't know what I'm going to say now, but anyway, that is, we have implemented a bunch of institutional reforms to strengthen our Prime Minister's institutional power from 1994, starting with the electoral reform. And that had, had the effect of indeed enhancing the prime minister's power, as we can see in the case of Prime Minister Abe, who succeeded in maintaining his office for more than 7.5 years. Okay? And also, but the other side of the coin of this growing power of the prime minister is the weakening of the LDP factions, as described by Akiyama-san. And they lost power in the power to influence cabinet appointment, minister appointment made by the prime minister, and also they lost power in terms of financial resources. So please note there is a great change after political reform was implemented in 1994. Before 1994 reform, each faction succeeded in obtaining 2 billion or 2.5 billion yen, and these 5 major factions succeeded in obtaining more than 10 billion yen. Okay. Now look at the amount of financial resources they could obtain after the reform. It diminished to 300 million yen. And in total, they now, after the reform, they managed to get billion yen in total. So it's 1/10 of the amount of financial resources they succeeded in gathering. So they financially became very important. And also they lost cohesion before in the LDP election, in presidential election. Normally one faction supported one candidate. But after the reform, the LDP factions were decentralized, become less cohesive, and it really changed. That it's changed nature. So it became very prevalent that one faction supports several candidates. Okay, and as a result of long-term weakening of factions, the dissolution of factions occurred last year. Okay. And at the same time, along with the empowerment of the prime minister and weakening of faction, LDP implemented democratizing of presidential elections. That is, they gradually changed the rule of LDP presidential election. Okay. In the LDP presidential election, LDP politicians as well as party members can vote. But for a long time, the weight of votes by ordinary party members were very small. But they have been increasing, and the LDP has been increasing the values of ordinary party members, and now they assign equal values to the votes by party members. In other words, the total votes casted by party members are converted to the same number of LDP politicians. So now we have 368 parliamentary, 668 LDP politicians. So they have the votes of 368. Okay, and there are some 1 million LDP ordinary members, and the votes they are casted are converted into 368 party member votes. Okay. And the dissolution of factions and democratization of LDP presidential election process combined together paved the way for the potential rise of right-wing LDP politicians as LDP president. Okay. And also we should note that there is a changing nature of LDP members. So this is a long-term decline of the LDP membership. In the heyday, in the past heyday, the LDP could boasted 4 million members, but it gradually was shrinking. Now it's around 1 million. And LDP is very much alerted by this current situation and has been telling LDP politicians to persuade your supporters to be LDP members. Okay? And the result is what is happening is shifting nature of LDP party members, because every year LDP announces top 10 MPs who made the largest contribution to enhancing membership. among the top 5 in 2023, 3 are right-wing politicians. This means that they are recruiting more right-wing minded people to LDP. Okay? So Shigeru Aoyama, he's really right-wing. And so is Sanae Takaichi and Ryota Takeda. Okay? So I think it's hard to come up with evidence. This is kind of anecdotal evidence, but I think the nature of LDP membership is really changing. Okay? And so now let's review what happened in the last year LDP presidential election. And here it is important to recall the weakening of factions and the changing nature of LDP membership. And so to run for the LDP presidential election, you need to receive endorsement from 20 LDP politicians. When factions existed, they could still screen candidates and restrict the number of candidates who could run for the presidential election. Now, almost all factions are gone. Any politicians who could receive support from 20 politicians can enter the race. Okay? So 9 politicians entered the race. And remember, there are 360 LDP politicians. So given 9 politicians enter the race with 20 supporting members, so the 180 votes are fixed. So the real competition is over. Remaining 180 LDP politicians and LDP party members whose vote is counted as 668. So it has become more important to appeal to LDP party members in the LDP presidential election, and these party members are shifting to the right. So what happened? And so this is pretty obvious with the evidence I have collected. So I'm paying respect to Akiyama-san, so I introduce the opinion polls by Asahi. It was really 3-way fight among Ishiba-san, Koizumi-san, and Takaichi-san. So according to Asahi Shimbun, the Ishiba, Koizumi were the 2 top running candidates. Okay, but I'm sorry to say this to Asahi Shimbun-san, but the Yomiuri Shimbun and Nippon TV has the list of the party members, so they can conduct opinion polls among just LDP members. Okay, they conducted the surveys, and it's Ishiba-san and Takaichi-san, because Takaichi-san is supported by right-wing party members. And congratulations for Takaichi-san, she came to the first position in the first round. Okay? And LDP politicians look at the result, oh Jesus, oh she's so hawkish and she might deteriorate our foreign relations with Korea or China. So many of LDP backbenchers shifted their votes to Ishiba-san in the runoff, so Ishiba-san could manage to win. But you never know, maybe in the next presidential election, Takaichi-san might succeed. And I think this is really a serious situation. So we the political scientists, really supported the electoral reform to empower the Prime Minister, but we have never thought of the effect, the spillover effect of weakening factions, paving the way for the right-wing LDP politicians to do well in the LDP presidential election. So I think the situation is really serious, and Asahi Shimbun, please take note of this and allow the Japanese public and the Japanese LDP politicians. Okay. Thank you very much for listening.
Any questions? I don't want to, as a moderator, I already spoke too much, but any questions about this? If not,
No. So it's just this is kind of what's happening with the United States. Many, sorry, it's too bad Larry has gone, but many political scientists studying polarization of the United States politics blame the U.S. primaries for the excess polarization, because the turnout rate for the primary is pretty low, and really hardcore supporters of the Republicans or the Democrats go to the primaries, and you have to win the primaries to go to the final round. So those who want to be senators or the congressperson, we really take a radical stance on respective parties, and so that the Republicans with really extreme right policy platform and the Republicans is really on the liberal radical platform, succeeding winning the primaries, and they go to Congress, and that's the reason for the polarization. So I think the U.S. the LDP presidential election is getting like a U.S. primaries. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, it's often been said that it only takes about something like 10-15% of the voting public in a given state for a senator or House member to win the election in the US. I don't know if that's where Japan should be headed, but it might be. So does that mean, according to your presentation, is Takaichi-san in good shape to
Yeah,
be
she's
the
in good
next
shape.
Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Do you
Well-
agree, Noriko-san? I mean, really, internally, I hear that Takaichi-san doesn't have a great deal of support, even among the right wing of the Diet members. Although she's trying to go to more nomikai and stuff to try to carry favors. And Takayuki Kobayashi is really more supportive, or somebody like Fukuda-san. Who do you see emerging out of that, Akiyama-san?
But I think Takaichi-san is really cultivating the rank and file LDP members. Yes, so he walked from the local area of Japan, and she delivered a speech among the rank and file LDP members. So she could gain a lot of votes from rank and file LDP members in the former LDP leadership elections. So still there is the possibility, I think. Of course, the Fukuda-san is a kind of celebrate. His father and his grandfather was also a prime minister, so he is destined to become a prime minister. It might be, but and also the Takayuki Kobayashi is a kind of rising star in the right wing. But I think the Takaichi-san's popularity is really rooted on the rank and file LDP members.
That's interesting. That's eerie similar to where Ishiba-san was before he got elected.
Yes.
Party members in rural areas. So somebody like Hayashi-san or Kato-san, those are more like probably safer choices.
Yeah.
But it sounds like in the current political environment, these mainstream kind of elite politicians are not well situated.
Well situated, given that the factions lost the screaming power. Before that, faction both at least had some power to make negotiations among themselves, and they may be talking, it's a bit risky to have Takaichi, so this time we should support Hayashi-san, and then they kind of limit the number of the politicians running for the LDP presidential election, and persuade the backbenchers to support the Hayashi-san. So even that might have helped Hayashi-san to overwhelm the Takaichi-san, who has huge popularity among the ordinary party members. So I mean, the LDP should really think about how to manage the LDP presidential elections. Yeah, but apart from that, there's one person we have not really talked. That is Kishida-san. I think he might make a comeback after, if Ishida-san gets in trouble. I don't know what Akiyama-san thinks, but I think many Japanese now kind of can appreciate what he was unpopular, but he was unpopular because slash fund scandals, and many people now kind of appreciate his policy achievements. So I think he might have, and we have the president of the Prime Minister Abe making a comeback. So Kishida-san is still young, and he's, I think, rather popular.
So after Abe-san, coming back is a kind of buzzword, the former prime minister, I think. So the Kishida-san also, he himself would like to become a comeback the prime minister again, but I don't know.
Any questions about Is this too much inside politics kind of talk?
Sorry, this might be kind of general. I observed this rise of like right-wing members in LDP. I feel like this is kind of this globalized policy that is also happening in the US, in China, and many other nations. What do you think contribute to the like rise of right-wing power? Is economics the only reason, or there might be other factors?
Oh, no, I mean, are you asking about the causes of the rise of right?
Yeah, I think.
Sentiments in Japan?
Or
Yeah.
broadly?
Broadly,
Not just
broadly,
Japan.
I think Japan that might be both, I guess.
I mean, globally and Japan,
Yeah.
okay, I think globally, this is very sensitive, but many political scientists are studying this rise of populism or the return of authoritarianism, ascribe this to two issues. One is widening economic disparity as a result of globalization, and the other issue is increase of immigration. And immigration is often used as easy shortcut to blame everything for those people who are who are not doing economically well. So, but for Japan, that shortcut did not exist because we have not accepted so many immigrants so far. But now I think we have accepted on de facto about 2 million immigrants, so about 2% of the population, and it's increasing. And so I think that is really started to kick off in southern Saitama because they have many immigrants from Turkey, causing some disputes with the locals. So I think what has happened in other parts, in other countries might take place in Japan, but I think it will take more time.
Thank you.
Anything to add?
Question? So, quick question. So, when it comes to the specific policies that the conservative wings of the Japanese politicians are pursuing, what are some of the policies that you think?
That is this how do you call this? Separate surname issues.
Apart from that, yeah.
The another sensitive question is the issue of imperial household. Like if you take the public service, 70 or 80% of the Japanese people are okay with female emperor or empress. But the hawkish or the right side wing of the LDP is really opposed to having a woman as our empress or emperor. So I think that's another issue. And also, maybe the other issue is also this diversity issue about how to have this like restroom in the public buildings and so forth. I think this will be in the background of the political competition.
Thank you.
So on the previous questions, people often talk about the impact, the post-COVID economic impact and inflation that's hurting our people's lives, and those economic changes have brought populism to the fore. Inflation in Japan is relatively low. Same thing with immigration. That's why even those right-wing parties that Takehata-san talked about, but still like 3 seats and 5, relatively small, right?
Yes.
Compared to European countries and the US, well, some segment of the United States. And also an interesting phenomenon that I want to have Akiyama-san talk about is this on the question of right-wing sort of policy differences outside of gender and all those things. Economic, financial policy,
Right.
so quantitative easing, all that kind of stuff. Somehow, like Takaichi-san and a lot of the right side of the LDP and the small extreme right-wing parties really prefer easing. There's more money, and they vilify Daimyo Ministry of Finance, and that's very strong. It has very strong appeal to the sort of populist segment. Akiyama-san, you can talk a little bit about this development about Daimyo.
Yeah, and the social media and the politics. Yes. So maybe you know now the social media is really increasing the influential power for the election. So the Kana-san, my last slide, please. So you know the Ishimaru Kanji-san, who ran for the Tokyo Metropolitan Governor election, and he gained the much voter next to Koike-san, and he gained much more than Renho-san. It was really surprising. And also last year, the Hyogo Prefecture governor election, the former governor Saito-san was re-elected. So against the once he was really on the brink, on the edge of the he could not become a governor again, but he won lots because that is said social media strategy was really he was really good at the social media strategy. So I would explain what now happened in the central diet. So as the Tsui Sensei says, the Zaimusho, the Ministry of Finance, is a kind of the main caster, villain, enemy of the conspiracy theory. Like right-wing parties or popularity supports the expanding the budget, but on the other hand, Zaimusho, the MOF is trying to how to reduce the budget. So the Zaimusho is a kind of villain and enemy of the conspiracy theory of right wing. So you know the anti NHK party, NHK から国民を守ると、one the upper house member is from the NHK party. So he is really used the social media strategically. So recently he announces through the former Twitter X, anyone who can join the Zaimusho Reku. Zaimusho Reku means the lecture by the Ministry of Finance bureaucrats. Anyone who want to attend the Zaimusho Reku, join me. So he announced through the Twitter. And so, of course, yeah, I want to join. So many, the reaction was there. And of course, not everyone, but some person could join the Zaimusho Reku. And this is the screenshot. The someone who joined the Zaimusho Reku and how he felt. So he said the bureaucrats of the MOF was not villain, not enemy. They were really good person, good people, and they explained to us really sincerely, and I could understand what they said. But so the national NHK party, the politician connect directly the professional politics with voters. So now I cannot judge this is a good thing or bad thing to the Japanese politics, but this is a kind of the trial. The professional politicians connect directly the inside politics to outside ordinary people. So that's my presentation.
Good. Yeah. Mario.
Yes, so speaking of the NHK party, I don't know all that much about Japanese news sources and media bias. It's a topic that I hear a lot about in the United States. I'm curious what the general consensus is on major news networks and their political bias, and further, speaking about the rise of kind of right-wing nationalism, if you think that we will see an increase in political bias in Japanese media.
I'm not an adequate person because I'm an inside media. But so Maybe Takenaka sensei is better.
I don't say it's bias. I think it's there. I think we can detect their political stances. It's really the Tokyo Shimbun on the very left hand side of the spectrum, then Mainichi, Asahi Shimbun, then Nikkei in the middle, and Yomiuri Shimbun on the right, and on the far right you have Sankei Shimbun. And yeah, that's how they position themselves, I think. Asahi Shimbun may be thinking they're neutral, but I think many people rather shifted, have taken the rather left hand side of the political spectrum, right? Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we have to, I promised Akiyama-san that we'll end
Yeah, she has to. She
a
has
little
to.
earlier, but we're already kind of over time, but as we look forward to this year and upper house election, that's the next thing that's happening in Japanese politics in what, July?
July. Hold on.
And Haru-san is bold enough to make some predictions about
No,
the
I cannot
election.
make that.
So we'll close with that presentation.
Okay, hold on. Oh, where did we go? Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay. So the seats that so now LDP and Komeito has majority in the upper house, and the seats needed to, and they did pretty well in the previous upper house election. So they have 74 seats that are not for re-election this time. So what they need the number of the seats they need is 51. Okay, and so the presidents in the past, there are two elections in the past which the LDP and Komeito could not. The number of seats they obtained was below 51. Okay, but I think this really has to do with the division among the non-LDP camp. They are divided, and if they can make a united front, I think that there are chances that that LDP and Komeito cannot secure enough seats to maintain majority in the upper house. But DPP has just said that they will do their best to obtain as many seats as possible in the upper house election, meaning that they will not make coordination with other parties. So I think the situation is very fortunate again for Prime Minister Ishiba, and I think they will probably succeed in managing the 51 more than 51 seats in the upper house election. So I think they will not be well, they still have to face with opposition in the lower house. But I think Prime Minister Ishiba will muddle through for maybe this year at least. Yeah. And it seems to me public is very happy seeing that the government is making concessions to the opposition parties and revising some of their policies, but the opposition is not really leading the government. So I think that's a good kind of mixture.
Okay, you heard it here first. Prime Minister Ishiba will be Prime Minister this time next year.
Yeah, okay. Okay. As of January 1st,
Okay.
2016, 26.
Alright.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so I have to bring it to a close. Thank you so much, Akiyama-san, for staying up way after midnight, and I know you have to wake up early tomorrow.
Kemo-san looks suspicious.
You want to say something about Ishiba? So you don't think Ishiba-san will survive that long?
I don't know, but it's really tough for him. It's really tough.
Okay, that's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll come back.
Because-
Both of you will come back here next year.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us and asking all these insightful, engaging questions. And if you have more questions, Akiyama-san has to go to bed, but Haru-san will still be. So So please feel free to come up here to talk to Haru-san or me or Matt or whoever. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.